President Assad issues a decree granting the late artist Yassin the Syrian Medal of Merit, of the excellent decree. The Ministerial Committee assigned to follow up the implementation of the political program to solve the crisis meets representatives of the Syrian mass media and the committee following up the Tehran conference. The Syrian Foreign Ministry condemns the criminal acts of terrorism in the area of the UNDOF forces in the occupied Syrian Golan with support from the Israeli occupation. Al-Ashrafiyya and Al-Hamadaniyya in Aleppo stage a march of support for the Syrian Arab Army and reject terrorism financed by Turkey, Qatar and Saudi Arabia. Good afternoon. Welcome to our news bulletin. I'm Dania Nizam. President Bashar al-Assad issued a decree number 96 of 2013 granting the late artist Yassin the Syrian Medal of Merit, of the distinguished degree in appreciation of his achievements to serve art. The medal will be given to the heirs of the late artist. Yassin was killed on February 24th when a mortar shell fired by terrorists hit his car before his house in the Yarmouk refugee camp in Damascus. He was born in Damascus in 1938. He belongs to the generation of the founders of the Syrian comedy. He took part in dozens of dramatic works in television and cinema. The Syrian Ministry of Foreign Affairs addressed two identical letters to the chairman of the UN Security Council and the Secretary General of the UN about the abduction of 21 Filipino soldiers working in the UNDOF in the village of Jamleh in the occupied Syrian Golan on March 6, 2013. The letters asserted that the Syrian government cooperated with the UNDOF command through a unilateral ceasefire in order to ensure the safety of the international forces. The Syrian government was shocked to find out that the armed terrorists transported the kidnapped soldiers to Jordan instead of releasing them without any conditions. This could only encourage terrorist groups to repeat such crimes. The ministry added that while the Syrian government reaffirms its commitment to its duties according to the agreement of the separation of forces, it recalls the recent attacks on the UN forces by the terrorist groups. These terrorists are active in the area of the UN forces due to logistic assistance given to them by the Israeli forces of occupation. This is a flagrant violation of the agreement of the separation of forces of 1974. Israel is thus responsible for the threat of the safety of UNDOF forces and staff by the terrorist groups. Syria has repeatedly warned of the existence of these terrorists in the area of the UN forces. Syria stresses the necessity of condemning the terrorist attacks on civilians in this area and the necessity of removing them immediately and preventing them from coming back. The states supporting these terrorists are also responsible for their crimes, which subject this area to many dangers against its stability. These terrorist activities also threaten the safety and security of the UN forces and staff. The director of the Office of the UN Envoy to Syria, Mukhtar Lamani, thanked the Syrian Arab Army for its cooperation in the process of releasing the UNDOF staff who were kidnapped by the terrorist groups a few days ago. They're all safe now. Mr. Lamani asserted that the abduction was an unacceptable crime. The UN Security Council issued a strong worded statement about this crime. In Latakia, a unit of our valiant armed forces stormed terrorist hideouts in Al-Halqi in the countryside and captured amounts of weapons and ammunition, including automatic guns, explosive devices, pistols, and stolen medical compounds and equipment. In Homs, terrorists fired 3 mortar shells at the oil refinery. The attack led to an outbreak of fire in the distillation unit. Firefighters of the refinery department were able to contain the fire and extinguish it completely. In the context of targeting the national economy and the basic needs of Syrian citizens, terrorists fired a mortar shell on a unit of gas supplies in the town of Adra in the Damascus countryside. This led to a large fire in one tank and heavy damage in a pipeline. Firemen rushed to this unit to put out the fire. A unit of our armed forces inflicted heavy casualties among members of a terrorist group to the west of the central Adra's prison. The armed forces captured machine guns, bombs and a large amount of ammunition, including ammunition used in anti-aircraft guns. A unit of our armed forces destroyed a number of vehicles that were used by the terrorists of the Victory Front to the west of Al-Dumia on the highway of Al-Zamrani towards Dara. Hundreds of families returned home to the town of Beit Sahan, from which they were displaced by terrorist groups for several months. Units of the Syrian Arab Army restored safety to this town. The returning people were very happy as they shed tears on the effects of the terrorist crimes on their property.
The terrorists attack us and we run away.
Where the Syrian army goes, you feel safe. You can return to the areas that have been purified by the Syrian Arab army.
I'm so happy to be back home, and I hope that things return as before.
The Syrian Arab army protect us so we can walk safely in the streets. It is such a blessing to regain our safety. This is a new baby entered Beit Sahan for the first time.
A huge mass rally was held in Al-Ashrafiyya neighborhood in Aleppo in support of the Syrian Arab army and to demand the expulsion of terrorist groups from Aleppo. The participants expressed pride in the role played by the Syrian Arab army in confronting Takfiri terrorist groups which received support from Erdogan's government and the Saudi and the Qatari regimes. Another rally was organized in Al-Hamadaniya neighborhood in the city to demand the expulsion of armed terrorist groups from the neighborhoods in the city in which they are present. A document from Jabhat al-Nusra terrorist group has revealed that the Turkish government of the Justice and Development Party is recruiting mercenaries to work for Jabhat al-Nusra terrorist group or to carry out intelligence missions. Al-Manar channel website published a document it received from an injured person working with the armed terrorist groups. The person said that the Turkish authorities established Democracy and Civil Society Center in Syria as a civil front for Jabhat al-Nusra, which is affiliated to Al-Qaeda, and the armed men to be sent to Syria. He added that the Turkish authorities depend on these documents to identify the people who can be taken to the military training camps in Turkey and the people who can form terrorist cells in Syria. Prime Minister Dr. Al-Halqi received a delegation representing the Committee of National Dialogue that was formed by the Tehran Conference. He stressed the importance of consolidating the concept of national dialogue as a living and innovative and positive step contributing constructively to the higher national interests. He expressed appreciation of the results of the Syrian Conference of National Dialogue in Tehran. These results strengthen national unity, combat terrorism and prevent foreign intervention in Syria's internal affairs. The Prime Minister also stressed support for all figures wishing to take part in the national dialogue. Members of the delegation stressed the importance of the efforts of the Ministerial Committee to carry out the political program to solve the crisis and its important steps to consolidate the national structure. They also pointed out that they were preparing for the coming meeting in Damascus towards the end of this month. Prime Minister Dr. Al-Halqi underlined during his meeting with representatives of various mass media the role of citizens, especially journalists and intellectuals, in enhancing the culture of dialogue in Syria. Dr. Al-Halqi also referred to the crucial role played by national mass media in showing the reality of events on the ground and disclosing the conspiracy being hatched against the country and its sinister objectives. The subsidiary committee assigned to set up the mechanisms of dialogue in Damascus continued its meetings. It met with representatives of the Syrian Socio-National Party and the Socialist Unionist Democratic Party. They discussed various aspects of the political, economic and social problems and securing the basic needs of citizens. They also discussed improving the situation of the displaced people and stressed the necessity of synchronizing the efforts of all political forces in Syria in order to find a solution to the crisis. On the occasion of the 8th of March Revolution, the National Union of Syrian Students held an arts exhibition at the Faculty of Fine Arts in Damascus. The exhibition includes many paintings that highlight the industrial and technical development in Syria as a result of the revolution. It also displays pictures that show the Syrian civilization and the rich heritage, in addition to the accomplishments of the 8th of March Revolution. In Venezuela, the Higher Elections Committee announced the 14th of next April as a date for the presidential election, which is set to choose the successor for the late President Hugo Chavez. The announcement came following a meeting of the committee which was held at the request of acting President Nicolas Maduro. Maduro has a great chance of winning the forthcoming elections, in which he will probably face the centrist Henry Capriles, governor of Miranda State. That concludes our news bulletin for today. For more details, Syria, you can check syriaonline.sy. And in our economic news, it's over to Vani after the break. God bless you and God bless Syria.